Okay. Welcome back to the Courtside Soundoff, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Angel Ortega. He's Nate Beggs. Yes, you heard that right. He is Nate Beggs. He is back once again on the show. Sadly, Josh had to take some time off. For personal reasons, he might be taking off a little longer. I don't know. We haven't decided that yet. We're still trying to figure that out, but he might be back next week. But we're going to be recapping the pay-per-view last week, this weekend's fight night, and we're going to have a little bit of boxing news. We'll keep it a little short and compact for the week, just because Josh isn't here to talk about certain topics. But for the most part, everything we usually do will be covered. But we're going to talk about our first sponsor of the day, Rogue Energy. Rogue Energy was founded in January of 2017 to be the best gaming drink in the world. They have developed a premium stack in the form of a delicious energy and focus drink. It's designed to replace unhealthy canned energy drinks, coffee, and even traditional pre-workouts. Rogue Energy is sugar-free and is loaded with vitamins, antioxidants, and nootropics, and they designed Rogue Energy for the emerging professional competitive gaming market, and it continues to have fantastic carryover and success with students, athletes, entrepreneurs, and anyone looking to optimize their mental and physical health. If you want 10% off your order, use code SOUNDOFF at checkout. That's code SOUNDOFF at checkout for 10% off all your energy needs. Alrighty, let's get into it. Last Saturday night, in the beautiful state of Houston, Texas, a new champion was crowned in the lightweight division. I believe it's either 12th or 13th champ was crowned. Charles Du Bronx Oliveira KOs Michael Chandler, and what was kind of one of the best first round fights we've had this year. I mean, it had everything, grappling, striking, like any match, obviously, but just a perfect mixture of intensity and how it started and how that first round ended and how it all led into the second. Nate, how did you feel about it? Were you happy with the outcome? Did you think Charles was going to win? I had picked Michael Chandler. Josh had picked Michael Chandler. I had talked about how I didn't think Chandler was going to get submitted. Obviously, there was a close moment there initially in that first round. And I said if there was a way for Charles to win, it wasn't going to be a submission. It was going to be a finish. And it ended up being that. I was right, but I didn't end up predicting him. So, Nate, what are your initial thoughts on Oliveira being champion and kind of how it happened and kind of how that round unfolded?
I don't really want either of those guys to be champion. I want, Dustin to come back and take what should be his. But my favorite part of the fight was actually when Chandler got a seat pulled out from under him. I actually that killed me. Um, yeah, I didn't see Charles winning that fight, but but he did, and it's okay. Longest what is it? Time to get to the title fight. Didn't he have like 18 fights in the organization? It's more than that actually. It's like 28,
It
28
was
fights in the.
it's something crazy like that. Yes.
It is to get a title fight, and he won it. So good for him.
Yeah, good for him. As far as matchups, a lot of us are kind of on the page that it's gonna be the winner of Dustin Connor. Um, which honestly, as far as like name value, me and Josh had talked about how Oliveira versus any of those guys, as far as the name matchup, wasn't gonna be as exciting if Chandler would have won and would have had the Connor matchup or the Dustin matchup, because obviously with Dustin there's some history there, and with Connor obviously the name, so we knew that was going to be interesting. Uh, but I told Josh I think the deeper story is the Oliveira story. Obviously him coming into the UFC, now having the greatest start, uh, being very young, and then coming on this win streak, and finding this kind of you know coming to life with everything and kind of becoming this better fighter, and getting all these submissions, getting all these finishes, and just getting to this point in his career now where he has the championship, and it was a finish, and there was a lot of doubt behind him. Obviously, a lot of the media was around Chandler because Chandler came in with a hype coming up from another organization. Obviously it would have been an American champ, and he would have been a big representative for a lot of people then. But now we got another Brazilian now in Oliveira, and as far as matchup, Nate, kind of get into that. Are you kind of on the same page as like Dustin and Connor being that matchup? Whoever that wins that fights Oliveira for the title.
I'm okay with that, but if they also want to push Gaethje, if one we never know if one of them will get hurt. If Gaethje wants to step in there, I like that matchup too. And I feel like it's a hard push, a really hard push. But you could try to push Beneil. You could try, but it just depends on how the UFC, wants to handle that. You know how they are.
I was talking to I think I might have talked to this in the past. I don't know if I'd mentioned it on the podcast or not, but I had mentioned how if for some reason Chandler were to lose, or now that Chandler did lose, I was a really big fan of the Justin Gaethje Chandler fight. If Chandler was coming off a loss. Would you be interested in a Chandler Gaethje fight?
Which one would you do? They don't have the same manager. Which one was that? That
Islam and Justin were the ones who had the same manager, but I guess yeah.
yeah. Michael Chandler versus Gaethje, or like Beneil versus Gaethje. I like any of them.
Mhm.
I think I actually lean towards Beneil versus Gaethje more than Michael Chandler versus Gaethje. Not trying to be prejudiced, but the less times Americans fight each other, the more chances we have. Another United States champ. All about repping the U.S. You know what I'm saying?
Alrighty, and then how do you feel now? How do you feel about? Do you think Beneil should be maybe looking to? Would you have an issue if they give Beneil the title shot? Obviously, that was a conversation that came up actually more this week rather than last week. There wasn't too much talk about it, but it's kind of like I think he has the second longest active win streak right now in the lightweight division. Also himself built his way back up. Didn't have that bad of a start to his career in the UFC. Had a couple losses in between. If he would, I mean, honestly, if you look at his record, if he had one loss less in between, he'd be kind of in the position he is now a little sooner. Um, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I think it'd be
Sounds kind of
interesting.
boring, doesn't it? Like compared to all the other names that you can match up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously the name power is a big deal, but obviously Beneil's on the come up. He just took Tony Ferguson down, which we'll get into that in a second. But you know, I don't know. I wouldn't have the biggest issue. It'd be kind of like, well, he's out. I mean, if he takes the fight, at least he's out of the mix. If he ends up losing or not, at least for a while, not to disrespect him or anything. Obviously, you want to see all these guys succeed in some form or way in the sport. But Beneil ended up. Well, I guess we can kind of lead into it now. Beneil ended up winning against Tony in maybe not the most exciting fashion, but he ended up dominating Tony, honestly, on the ground. Tony only threw, let me look here, 15 significant strikes, a total of 37. And honestly, I don't know how significant they were if Beneil at no point in that fight ever looked kind of injured or really damaged. Uh, so he attempted 6 takedowns, got 3 of them, and honestly, those probably each for 1, 2, and 3. That's probably the breakdown of him, 1 takedown per round. And now we sit here, and Tony's riding, I believe, a three win-loss streak officially. I think there was something that in Tony's last 2, 3 fights, or I don't know how much, I don't know what it was, but he had thrown a total of maybe like 30 strikes, something crazy like that, like a very low amount, or landed like 30 significant strikes or something like that. Uh, as far as Tony, Nate, do you think we're getting to the end? Do you think time is getting to him? Do you think he should really fight another top five guy, or should he be fighting like a guy in like maybe the 15 to 11 range?
I want Tony to take another like 8 month break off, because like you watch these last couple fights, dude, like his arm about to, like he just hyperextends too much, and I think he needs like a long break. Like, just give him like a long 6, 8 months off, and then let him come back and fight.
And obviously, I forgot what it was. If it was ankle block, knee bar, I can't remember. Also, that submission. I mean, he didn't tap to that. I
Was that
mean,
his knee too? Like his bad knee? That might have been his bad knee.
I don't know what it was, but there was an attack on the leg there. Still didn't tap to that submission. Tough dude. Being tough isn't always the smartest thing, especially in this sport. But as far as looking forward, we talked a little bit about Benino and Tony right there. Is there any matchup you would particularly like to see for Benino? Because I'm kind of lost with Benino. I really don't know what if I'm in the UFC what I do with Benino, because he's not really far away from a title shot, and I really don't see him fighting anybody that isn't above him at this point because he's now ranked 3, I believe, and I think the people above him are Gaethje, Dustin, and obviously Oliveira, and he's above Connor now, if I remember the power rankings off the top of my head correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what would you like to see for Benio?
Mm. Yeah, I guess to fight someone because it's so locked up there. Like you give him, I think Gaethje, Chandler. You could give him if Connor or Dustin lose, one of those guys. You can give him any three of those guys. I think the best matchup for him though, like the one that makes the most sense, that you could push really fast right now is Justin, because Connor or Dustin are they like to take some time off. But if you give him Justin, I think he's in pretty good fit health right now, and Benil doesn't take too much damage. Or Michael Chandler. I don't know. I think they want Michael Chandler to sit down for a while.
I don't know. I mean, I guess you're right. As far as fast turnaround, it'll probably be Benil. He could probably do a quick fight. Like, he can fight Gaethje here in a few months. So maybe that wouldn't
August.
be a bad bet. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad bet, and he could probably guarantee himself in a title position after that. Um, because I guess you're right. Obviously, Michael's gonna have to go through protocol and probably be out for a little while, so he probably won't be. He wants to fight. I wouldn't say too soon, but he wants to get in the mix again. So I completely understand. I'm sure the UFC is going to try to push though for Gaethje Chandler, just because that's just how they are. They really won't be
Well,
giving Beneil too much love.
it sounds really good though. Gaethje Chandler compared to like
Oh yeah,
Gaethje Beneil, you know, it's just
yeah. Now, I know we're sticking a lot here on the main, like the first two fights of the card, but I just want to bring up: have you watched anything kind of afterwards with Chandler, him talking about the loss and talking about everything, by any chance?
I watch a little bit, dude, like a very small portion, but no, not really.
Okay,
Tell
that's
me.
fine. Well, I watched quite a bit. I listened to some of his sit downs, and as far as kind of how he's reacted to it, I'm very pleased. You know, you like to hear that out of a guy. He's like, it's a bump in the road. We'll get back in the mix. I know I made a mistake. Uh, he's like, I never doubted Oliveira. Uh, I don't know. I think he maybe came into it a little maybe overconfident, thought he was going to put him out. Didn't end up being the case. Ended up getting countered. Um, he's seen
Get
a
that
lot of
Dana
good
White
things.
privilege, dude. That's why they were trying to push him too hard. You know, he thought he was, hot shit, dude. But
I don't know. I don't know if it was that. I think he was capable. I think if you run this fight like a lot of times, there's a lot of times where Michael comes out on top. Maybe even more than Oliveira. I'll say that. Uh, you know, I think going forward, we'll see him soon. We'll see him in a big fight. He wants to get back into it. He says he wants, obviously, like any guy in this division, obviously he wants to be champ. That's the end goal of everybody here. Um, like I said, I like a lot of things he's saying. He's a smart dude. Last time, anytime Chandler's ever came back from a loss, he's always came back better and stronger and always recovered and got to that title position. So hopefully he does it again because honestly, I really like him. He was one of the guys when it came to one of the bigger promotions outside of the UFC. He's one of the guys I wanted to see really be in the UFC at one point, and now he is. So I think we'll wrap out that part of the fight card there. As far as moving forward, Rodrigo Bontrain and Matt Schnell. We don't get into. I don't want to get into that too much. I thought Schnell was going to win that fight. Ended up not going like that. I'm pretty sure there was an opponent change there. I think they were supposed. Well, I can't remember who it was, but someone was supposed to fight Alex Perez originally. For the lady fight, Kayla Shikagi and Vivian Araujo. Some people thought Vivian won that fight. I didn't. I thought Kaylin took it. Kind of my opinion on that. Did you feel any type of way about that fight, Nate, or did you think Kaylin took the fight?
oh, Caitlyn, no doubt.
Alrighty,
Yeah,
you'll love to see
not
it.
much to say on it.
And then for what I thought was to be fight of the night, and I definitely call it fight of the night. Shane Burgos, Edson Barbosa, man, getting that third round KO with a delayed finish. Shane Burgos reacting delayed to the shots. Man, I picked Edson Barbosa to win this fight. Shane Burgos came out the bang. He had a good performance. Edson obviously getting the finish, looking really good with the weight change at featherweight. He's looking to get another big name. Looking forward to matchups. Nate, who would you like to see Edson fight? Let me go to the power rankings real quick, and I'll give you kind of a rough breakdown of where he sits now. I'm pretty sure he doesn't sit that far up now, but still an increase. So currently, he's sitting at a nice number 9. Ahead of him are Danny Ige, Arnold Allen, Josh Emmett, Calvin Kattar, Chang Sung Jung, Yair Rodriguez, Brian Ortega, Max Holloway, and obviously the champ, Alexander Volkanovski. Keep in mind, Edson is coming off when he made his debut at this weight class. I'm pretty sure he lost to Danny Ige, and I think maybe a split decision loss or just a unanimous decision. I can't remember, but it was a close fight. There's a lot of people who thought Edson won that fight. As far as people who are locked up right now, I think obviously Danny Ige is locked up. I believe he's locked up with someone. I can't think right now. I might be wrong there. Arnold Allen obviously fought not too long ago. Josh Emmett might be dealing with an injury. I can't think off the top of my head, or might be locked up as well. Calvin Kattar obviously had that war with Max, and then Korean Zombie obviously locked up with a fight already. And Yair's planning to make his debut soon. Obviously, Brian on the Ultimate Fighter right now with Alex. They're filming that right now, and I think Max is gonna sit back and kind of wait to see what happens with those guys. As far as matchups, Nate, who would you like to see Edson Barbosa fight? Like I said, he's sitting at 9, but I think he has a lot of name power. He's kind of proven himself at this division. He can fight any of those top guys. Who would you like to see him fight next at featherweight?
So I think it's a hard push, but we have him fight Josh Emmett. Okay, knocks out Josh Emmett because Josh Emmett's a knockout machine. Knocks out Josh Emmett. Okay, top 5. And then it's hard to push it, but I want Max Holloway, Edson Barboza, because I think that's going to be a 5-round war. It'd be amazing, absolutely stunning, dude. Max Holloway would eat. Edson Barboza would eat, dude. It would just be such a good fight. Such a good fight.
Okay. I dig it. I got Josh Emmett isn't locked up right now, so I don't know if maybe they can make that happen. But like I said, I thought he might have been dealing with a lingering injury. What I thought would be a fun one to do would be Yair's talking about fighting again soon. I thought Yair Rodriguez, Edson Barboza would be a good fight. I know that's a very hard fight for Yair to come back to, but at the end of the day, I mean, he's been out for a long time. Edson's hungry. He has name power behind him. He's a well-established guy, and that way you can push Edson really quick. Edson is a little older now. I think he's like 36, I believe. So, I think that wouldn't be a bad matchup for Edson, and I think it'd be a great fight for Yair because then he beat a very good opponent who's ranked below him and kind of hold down his position. That's the one I like to see. I will see what the UFC decides to do with Edson, but I think that's my current matchup. I like your matchup as well. I think that'd be a fun one too because he's available. And he's also talked about how he wants another big guy like in the top 5 very soon. I think he named Calvin Kattar, Max Holloway, and the Korean Zombie as some of his names, which I think are all good call-outs. I'm very excited to see what he continues to do. So, I guess looking back at the prelims, I guess I want to highlight a couple quick fights. As far as prelims, and this is some news I'm dropping here, Nate. I don't know if you saw this, but Jacare is now a free agent. With he's not in the UFC anymore, so that ended up happening. Obviously, Jacare lost last Saturday night against Andre Muniz, getting submitted first round. Tough guy. I mean, I got stopped because I heard the break. I think he got his first surgery. He's doing well. I think is what the UFC reported. Are you surprised at all by the release? Did you see it coming? And also,
isn't it a 3 or 4 loss? Like losing streak. It's pretty rough for him right now. Like submissions, KOs, Kevin Holland. But you know what that means? You know what it means? It's a Bellator time, light heavyweight Grand Prix champion time. Time to put him in the Grand Prix. Fine by me.
I mean, looking back at it, so looking at his last 5 fights. So starting with the 5th one in 2018, he beat Chris Weidman, finished him in the 3rd round. Following that, there was a Jack Hermanson unanimous loss. Didn't get finished. He had a split decision against Jan Blachowicz back in 2019 when he made the move up to light heavyweight. I'm not sure what that was all about. And it was a split decision, and you can argue that he won that fight too. And obviously in recent time, the more devastating ones were the Kevin Holland, obviously knockout from, him on his back, and the Andre Muniz armbar that just happened. So it's not like he's been getting decimated lately, but he did pile up a couple losses. I mean, prior to the Chris Weidman, he got a split decision loss against Kelvin, beat Derek Brunson, finished Derek Brunson, lost to Robert Whittaker, who's obviously the champ, beat Team Bosch, beat Vitor Belfort, had a split decision, lost to Yoel Romero. So it's not like Jacare was getting absolutely murked, but he was piling up losses.
I think it's 3 years and 3 losses. I think it's the year. It takes him a long time to fight. Like 3 years and you haven't won. That's kind of like a long time. That doesn't sound too good.
It doesn't sound too good, but the UFC's been no surprise to keep people around for a while who haven't won. But now he's a free agent. We'll see if he decides to go to the PFL, Bellator 1, or maybe some other promotion. Who knows? Maybe he does bare knuckle boxing. But, credit to his opponent, Andre Muniz, beating Jacare, a legend, submitting him. A lot of people didn't think he would submit him. I'm pretty sure there was some high betting odds on that if you ended up betting on the submission for Andre Muniz, especially in the first round, if you were being very precise with it. Obviously, Lando Bonata getting a big win, coming back. Jordan Wright, the Beverly Hills Ninja, I believe, is his moniker. Getting the first round finish against Jamie Pickett. What a big win. I felt like he should have deserved the bonus, but the UFC, how they are about not giving bonuses to guys who are on the main card. And Andrea KGB Lee beating Anatina Shevchenko, second round submission. We saw that. That was crazy. So, yeah, that's kind of the recap of UFC 262. And overall, Nate, did you like the card? Were you happy with it? Were you satisfied with the matchmaking?
Yeah, I was happy. There was it wasn't. It was fine. I don't think there were many bad ref calls as usual. It was surprisingly like generally pretty well. I mean, like there were a bunch of finishes, but overall, even then, no horrible ref calls, no robberies.
Alrighty. Oh, and I guess we didn't talk about this. So this is actually something interesting I want to come back to real quick. So do you know what they scored the first round for Michael Chandler versus Oliveira?
No,
They
or
sc-
like
they
30
scored it
26.
they scored it 10-8. They scored the first round 10-8 for Chandler. Two judges scored it 10-8 for Chandler, and one scored it 10-9 for Chandler. Uh, Obviously, if the fight would have gone on, there would have been a great possibility that going forward, Chandler that Oliveira, if the fight was close, that Oliveira would have been down a round and could have lost it because of a judge giving a 10-8 round so early on. Uh, that's kind of crazy to think. Obviously, at the end of the day, the right guy won. I know there was a lot of opinions about this. The way I kind of thought about it was like, look, if the fight would have ended, obviously we don't want it to happen, but I think if the fight would have gone on and it seemed like Oliveira would have won and he would have lost to a 10-8 because of the 10-8 at the round, I would have felt some type of way, but because Oliveira got to finish and we didn't get to that point, I'm not worried about it. Obviously, it is still kind of worrisome because it could happen in a future fight, in a championship fight, in a 5-round four. We didn't have that here, luckily. Luckily, the right guy won because he obviously got to finish. But I mean, it's definitely a little worrisome. Obviously, we talk about judging pretty regularly on this show. Me and Josh are very adamant about changing it a little bit, thinking about ways to make it better. And have even talked to some of the guys. I've talked to when we had Sam Alvey on the show. I think we even talked about it a little bit. Uh, I mean, it's a conversation that comes up pretty often on the sport and kind of the judging. It's very hard to judge it. I think the criteria should just be looked over a lot and revised and made better. I think that's the big issue too as well. But because in a lot of the comparisons I heard were like in the Alexander Rakic, I believe Anthony Smith fight, the round where uh, Rakic actually ended up like pounding on Smith and his teeth fell out during that round. That was scored at 10-9. It's like, well, if you scored that at 10-9, how is this and it wasn't a 10-8, how is this a 10-8 and that's a 10-9? So there's been a lot of talk about stuff like that. Uh, do you have any kind of quick thoughts on that, Nate? Any opinions? Anything you want to like put out there?
Well, I agree with you, Josh. Like, it should be revised, but as you said, it's really, really hard to revise. I think that mostly they need to work on grappling and like ground play because I think that's a lot less valued. Yeah.
I feel like at times it's a little overvalued too because it used to be before like you got to take down in a round and that almost won you the fight a lot of the time, stuff like that. It's gotten better though. Where now the takedown has to lead to something or has to be completed or something, and then they'll be scored. Uh, Something like that. I can't think off the top of my head, but I know they fixed stuff like that. It used to be a lot worse. It's. I hope it slowly gets better, but it's still a little worrisome. But looking forward to this fight night at the UFC Apex. We got Rob Font, Cody Garbrandt leading the main card, co-main Yanshan, yeah, and Shout and then Carla Esparza for the co-main. I mean, getting right into it. Rob Font, Cody Garbrandt, Cody No Love back, kind of. I wouldn't say reinventing himself, but being able to put all the best aspects of himself together to find success because it seemed like at times he seemed like one of those guys who fought with too much emotion in the fight and maybe showboated a little too much because the guy is extremely talented. I mean, you saw what he did to Dominic Cruz, and he was losing a little bit there. It wasn't looking great. You made your kind of thing. Was it just all a fluke? What's going on here? Because he's a very talented guy. I mean, he's a champ. People forget he's a former champion. I mean, that's something that at one point happened, but he ended up I mean, I think TJ just got in his head and it kind of messed with him. Obviously, he had those two
Was
losses to
definitely
TJ.
wasn't the PEDs.
I mean, at the end of the day, you could
Couldn't have
say that,
been.
but there's also been guys who beat other guys on peds. I mean, you can argue that as much as you want. Obviously, it's an advantage if it was a thing, EPO, all that. But he still did lose to TJ regardless. I mean, those two losses still exist on the record. We can't look past those. I mean, they were both finishes. And he ended up losing to Pedro Munoz. And I mean, unless you want to accuse Pedro Munoz of PEDs, then I mean, you can't really say anything for that. I mean, he still lost
No,
on the
that
record.
was that was Cody's emotions getting to him, that Pedro fight.
But yeah, obviously, he came back. He fought a Rafael Assunção, got a nice finish. One of my knockouts, honestly, what I thought were one of the better knockouts of the year. Obviously, there's a lot of hype behind a lot of the other ones. He was scheduled to fight Davison but I forgot when. I think he ended up getting COVID, and that kind of messed everything up. And he made the weight cut, and it was looking like he was going to do it. He was going to fight Davison for the title, and maybe look at trying to get a dual weight champ, becoming dual weight champ, hold that belt, come back to bantamweight, try to catch that title. But now he's fighting Rob Font, who's not riding a 3-fight win streak, obviously beating Sergio Pettis, who is now Bellator champ. It's Ricky Simone, Marlon Moraes, who Marlon's looked let's say a bit rough. I mean, I don't know what we could take too much from that fight because obviously I feel like there's something wrong with Marlon right now. He's not himself. Looking at some of Rob's losses, obviously Rafael Assunção, talented guy, Pedro Munoz, one of the best guys in the division, John Lineker, one of the best guys in this division to ever be in it. Long time in the UFC, been in here since 2014. Has been great for the organization in a very deep bantamweight division now. He's looking forward to fight Cody No Love. I mean, I guess let's get right into it, Nate. Who do you got in this fight? Do you got Rob Font or Cody No Love to take this W?
Oh, I think Cody. I think he's gonna come out there and I don't want to be wrong about this. I don't want to be wrong about this at all. I do think it'll be Cody though. Like like you said, like Marlon. Marlon. You can't really judge anything off that fight. Marlon's been on a really bad skid recently. But I really hope Cody comes out and knocks him out. Like, good finish, really beautiful knockout.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously Rob Font can't be looked over. Obviously, he has some nice ones on the record. Only has been finished ever once, and it was a submission. It wasn't a strike. And he's fought some good striking guys. I mean, I think he'll be hard to put out if somehow Cody's able to do it. Do I think Cody will be able to finish Rob Font? I actually don't think so. I think he'll actually be able to take. I think it'll be I'll go the distance. It'll be the 5 rounds. Maybe he gets it. I mean, if he is, it does it very late, and it's gonna have to be a pile of punches. I don't see Cody maybe finishing Rob. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I mean, Cody's has dynamite in his hands, especially for that division. He's one of the hardest hitters in that division, without a doubt. But Rob has a heck of a chin, too. I've seen him take a couple shots, and I think a lot of guys would have folded to, and obviously he stayed in it. He has a couple finishes himself. Obviously, he's a threat himself. I don't think he should be looked over. I wouldn't be surprised if he came out on top over Cody. That'd be a big win for him, and he'd be back in the mix real quick. I mean, it's not like he's out of the mix, but he'll be right there with it. I mean, obviously, a big name like that is going to carry a lot of power. And yeah, as far as who I got, I think I'm going to pick Cody. If he does get it, I think it'll be a late finish. I'm leaning decision. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that one, but I'm going to go with decision for that. I think Cody gets the W and keeps making his way up those bantamweight rankings. And now to get into co-main, Yan Xiaonan, Carl Esparza. Yan Xiaonan is one of the fighters that I kind of randomly found just looking through the UFC roster quite a while back before she kind of got kind of some of her bigger name wins. Or when I first discovered her, not too long back, I kind of kept an eye on her. And kind of as time has gone on, obviously Wei Li, her other, obviously another fighter from China, she kind of came up their rankings. And Yan is 13-1 now. At the time when I saw her, I forgot what her record was. It was before the Angela Hill fight, so she hadn't had that kind of name yet. But I had talked at the time when she kind of beat Angela Hill and Carolina that I was telling Josh, I'm like, Josh, I mean, the China super fight, I mean, we know how big the Chinese market is. If she can get that Wei Li title fight, I mean, this is a massive fight for both those girls. I mean, we saw how big the arena was filled when Wei Li fought for the title and won the title. I mean, I can't imagine how big and massive it'd be if they fought in China again. And then it was Sean Yanan versus Wei Li for the title. And now we sit here, and she's fighting Carla Esparza, former champ. Obviously, I think that one of the best ways this was described is former champ versus future champ. Or some people would say future contender, but I think I see her as a champ too. I mean, she's super talented. I mean, her wins now on the UFC: Angela Hill, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Claudia Gadelha, Carla Esparza, and I'm not Carla Esparza yet, but it could be Carla Esparza. I mean, all those names are insane. I mean, she's pretty much there for a title. I mean, she's right on the verge of it. She's really exciting. She's very intelligent. She's a smart fighter. She's taking on Carla Esparza and a former champion. I mean, she's kind of come back. Obviously, she got the Claudia Gadelha split decision loss that I think people thought she won. And then she had the Tatiana Suarez loss, which was in the 3rd round. Later that same year. And since then, she's been able to get a couple wins, some nice names in there. Alexa Grasso, Michelle Waters, and Marina Rodriguez. And obviously, she beat Shannon Yan here. I mean, man, she's already back in the mix. Uh, she's a hard fight. She's a hard fight. She's a hard out. Obviously, we're gonna have to see if Shannon Yan can perform. Nate, looking at this fight right now, who do you pick? Who do you think comes out on top? And do you think the person who wins this fight is next in line for a title shot, or is really close to being right there for it?
Well, I see what you're saying. Like, I think Yan. I think Yan. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
I think Yan. I think Yan would beat Carla. But the only thing is, like, if you put her up against Rose, like, I want to see the Rose fight with her. But you make a really good point with Weili like that. That's a much better seller, even though it's championship, not championship fight. I think it'd sell a lot better. But if Carla wins, I think skip Weili. You don't want to put her against Weili and just have her straight up fight Rose. We don't want to see the Weili, but then who does Rose fight? Like if Yan goes to fight Weili, who's Rose gonna fight? If she wants to fight, like, do you just give her Carla even though Carla just lost? Or like, do you want to push up Joanna? Do you want to push? That's where it gets me. It really like constrains the rankings up there. It's really gonna make it really jam packed and just slow it all down. But
yeah, and Joanna's sitting at 3 right now. Do you think she would you be opposed to maybe her having one more fighting Joanna, and seeing if she wins that?
I think she's on the good. I think you just push her. She's already up there. She's number 3. She beats Carla. You push her. You don't need you don't need Weili to fight Rose instantly. It wasn't that close. Or you don't need Joanna versus Rose, and Joanna versus Weili just happened. So, just push her. Or I don't like the idea of pushing Carla though. If she lost, like, she lost. Let her fight. Let her fight Rose anyways.
Mm-hmm. And if Carla wins, do you think she gets the title shot and actually fights Rose?
Yeah. I for her sake, I hope she doesn't have to fight Joanna or Weili. Just skip them. Just
now,
skip
do you
them.
think
Fight Rose.
Do you think Rose is gonna refight Weili? Do you think they're gonna have a rematch?
I don't think she wants to. I wouldn't. I just not didn't. Wasn't it first round?
It was first round.
It was second, wasn't it?
No, it was first round.
Yep, you're right. First round. Yeah, first round head kick, dude. It's like you can't just no. It's Paulo Izzy. You don't get I don't care if you're drinking wine the night before. It's not happening.
I mean, what it's worth. I mean, she did win the title against the girl who beat her, and then finished her, and then also defended the title against in a crazy fight. Obviously, she lost it in sudden fashion, but don't you think she at least deserves some warrant for at least a rematch? Weili does, because I mean, Weili isn't really far away from getting a rematch, anyways. I mean, if she fights one person, she gets it next. I mean, it's really what it is.
Yeah.
As much as you want to argue it, she's really in a position to fight Rose again. I mean, Rose is her only loss at the top. It's not like she's lost to anybody below her, and she beat the person who's ranked, I believe, number 2 in Joanna. Weili would really have to fight down to if she needed to fight someone, especially as far as how it works out. I mean, everybody's kind of coming off pretty. Kind of everybody up there is kind of matched up or coming off a pretty recent fight.
Who'd she take it from? Who'd Weili take it from? She take it from Andrade?
Took it from Andrade, yes.
Yeah, so she took it, beat one person, lost to Rose. It just really gets to me. It feels so hard for me to just instant rematch.
She can't fight Joanna. Jan will be coming off a win, and then that'd be a contender fight or number 1 person to fight it. Mackenzie Dern obviously just fought not too long ago, and I don't think they would want Mackenzie Dern to fight Weili or one of those girls who was already there. So that's what I'm telling you. The division's kind of in a weird state because there's kind of the people you kind of have settled down that are going to fight, which is either going to be Carlos Esparza, John Shaw now, whoever gets the next title shot or is in line for it, or you do the Weili and Rose rematch. You know what I mean? I mean, there isn't really too much to work with if you want to give it to the right person, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the current state of it.
You know what we could do? Maybe we can just have Jan fight Carla. Maybe whoever wins that, have him fight Weili. And just let Rose, take a leisurely long break, That might honestly be the most real, outcome, the closest to reality. Mm-hmm. Long break, fight, set her up with Weili, and then Rose is like, I'll take the winner of that. Mm-hmm. And Joanna, I don't know who they put, maybe Joanna or Mackenzie. I don't know if Mackenzie wants that fight, but
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to the Whaley Yan super fight if Yan were to come out on top, or Carla versus a Whaley. I mean, I guess the one thing is, if feel like if Carla wins, they push Carla for the title shot. But if Yan wins, I guess they could really push the kind of title eliminator between Whaley and Yan, and then they get their China super fight. If by then they're able to make events in China, uh, it's just kind of dependent. I know the UFC will figure it out. There's just a lot going on there. I'm sure they'll figure it out. I'm sure. As much as it sucks, I really don't think the strawweight division title's going to defend it again this year. I did talk about this to Josh. I told Josh I really do think this title at this weight class is going to shift because of the level of competition. Because I don't see one girl dominating this division for a long time right now, as it stands.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I told Joe,
could you see Rose defending it one more time though?
Oh yeah, definitely. I could see Rose defending it one more time.
Well, who do you think Rose is going to lose to in that top?
She can lose to anybody in the top 5. In my opinion.
But do you think she's going to? You think she's not gonna lose to Joanna? Do you think Whaley, if she rematches Whaley, you think
I feel like Whaley could beat her. I feel like Whaley could beat her. I feel like Jan could beat her. I feel obviously Carla's beat her, so I know Carla can beat her again.
Oh, that would actually look at that. That now that you said that, I forgot about that. If if Jan beats Carla,
Rose too.
I remember now. Yeah, if Jan beats Carla, and then she's like, you know what, go fight Whaley, dude. That Carla versus Rose is a great fight. You beat me once. I want. I'm back. I'm the champ, but I'm gonna beat you now. I love that.
So obviously, there's a lot to work with there. We kind of talked about that division. Like I think I wouldn't be surprised if a year from now we have a different champ at this division. That's kind of the way I talked about that right after Rose won. But let's get back to the card. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're stuck on that topic a lot because obviously that division is really deep and competitive right now. When it comes to it's the most competitive women's division right now. There's no doubt about it.
Oh yeah.
On the main card, Justin Tafa, Jerry Von Derek coming back. They'll be fighting that night. They'll be the third fight of at the end of or the last fight of the card. And they'll be
some shoeies. I want Justin Tafa to give us some shoeies.
Maybe. We'll see. And then Felicia Spencer, Norma Dumont, obviously, potentially the last featherweight fight we might see. Potentially. I don't know. Obviously, the opponent changed. It was originally supposed to be Felicia Spencer versus Danielle Wolf. Now it changed to Norma Dumont, Felicia Spencer. At flyweight, we got David Dorek and Romino Pavia fighting at flyweight. Obviously, those two guys, like I said, man, a flyweight division, also another big, deep division, just like the flyweights are. And at middleweight, this is kind of the other fight that I really want to get into is Edmund Shabazian, Jack Hermanson. I feel some type of way about this fight, Nate. I am not really happy with the matchmaking here. I feel like they're pushing Edmund again too fast. He's fighting Jack Hermanson. Obviously, the man has a total of 27 fights to Jack Hermanson's 12 fights. Edmund Shabazian's 12 fights. And he's coming off his first professional loss. He's 23 years old. He's going to be taking on Jack Hermanson. If he gets the win, obviously good for him. Obviously, no doubts. Big W, right? He's super up the rankings. But I'm not a big fan of it, man. I feel like the UFC are pushing Edmund Shabazian a little too hard right now. They could be putting him in still very competitive fights and also develop him so he can obviously find success because he did enter the UFC at a very young age. And they're not doing him any favors here. Do you feel any type of way about this matchup, Nate? Obviously, the last time we saw Jack Hermanson, he was in Marvin Vettori with I'd say a very competitive fight. Obviously, before that, he beat Kelvin Gastelum in the first round with a heel hook. He did lose to Jerry Cannonier before that. Before that, it was Jacare and David Branch. So he had some good wins, kind of to his name. He submitted Gerald Meerschaert, obviously a guy with a lot of submissions in that weight class. And now they have him matched up against Edmund Shabazian, which him coming off his first loss, and it was a finish to Derek Brunson, who's obviously now in a longer win streak, looking to be in a title shot position again. What are kind of your thoughts overall over this fight? Do you think the matchmaking could have been done better? Just your general overview.
Yeah, I think like you said, I think Ed's been in some trouble, dude. Edmund's not, no favors for him. Like, he's so young. He's so young, 23. He has so much time, he doesn't need to, just go out there and fight. Like, I think Jack Hermanson is still, isn't he still top 10? 8?
Probably around somewhere. Probably somewhere.
Like, he's still in Edmund's coming off a loss. Jack Hermanson, he's coming off. Is it a loss? It's a loss.
It should be a loss.
Yeah, coming off a loss, but still a really good fight, It's just, it's so rough, because if Edmund loses this, who does Edmund fight now? Then if Edmund loses this, then he's going to be doing what they already should have done. They already should make him fight a couple smaller guys. Not as good as Jack. Then come fight Jack. Who knows? Jack might lose a couple times by then. I like the matchup though. I think it's going to be a good fight, but I think it's going to be really, really, really hard for Edmund.
Yeah, so Jack Hermanz is actually sitting at 7 right now. Edmund Shabazz is sitting at 10. And even then, I mean, Edmund Shabazz, if he does fight down, I mean, the names are kind of Brad Tavares, Kevin Holland, Amari Akhmadov, obviously Chris Wyman, but I'm sure Chris Wyman might fall out of those rankings with inactivity soon, and Sean Strickland. So if he does fight, I mean, if he ends up losing, I mean, even if he does end up fighting down, I mean, the opponents below him are not any much better in my opinion. I mean, I think he could win, but is he gonna win? That's kind of my thing. And I guess Jack Hermanson, I mean, I just don't know, man. I think it's just going to be a little too tough for him. I don't think it's, and then I don't want to doubt the guy, but I just don't think this is the fight for him right now, especially coming off a loss. So I guess we laid that out pretty well. As far as the prelims, I wanted to talk about this a little bit. Nate, so Ben Rothwell is fighting Chris Barnett. Are you aware of Chris Barnett?
Name super familiar.
Okay,
super familiar.
Okay, so Chris Barnett is 5'9" and is fighting at heavyweight. Do you know what his previous weight class was by any chance, Nate? Just want to guess.
It's probably middleweight, welterweight.
He was fighting at super heavyweight.
Damn.
Yeah, Chris Barnett was fighting at super heavyweight, and the reason you might know Chris Barnett is that guy who looks like Mark Henry a little bit, who's on all those is the big black guy who's a little heftier, who was in all those clips on YouTube of him doing like spinning side kicks.
Oh, that's Chris Barnett.
That is Chris Barnett.
Oh,
Chris Barnett
is making like one or something, dude.
He's fought in Road FC. He's fought in a number of different promotions, but the UFC has now finally decided to sign him. A lot of people thought that he should have been signed years ago. He actually doesn't have a bad record. I mean, for a long time he was 12-1. Ended up losing a few here and there, and he went on a little losing streak there. He lost to a guy who I can't think of his name, but he lost to a good guy a while back, and he's since then gone on a little win streak. Went on a little 3 or 4, 5 win streak. I think he's riding a 6 win streak into UFC right now. He fought at UAE Warriors late last year. I guess maybe Dana might have got a look at him out there, and yeah, man, he's out here now. He's gonna fight Ben Rothwell. Interesting matchup. Ben can either be, I think, he'd be a very boring guy. He's hard to finish. I mean, his I think looking. Yeah, let me take a quick look here at his finished losses if he has any. I think it might be 2 in recent time, if I remember right. But yeah, let me see here real quick. So his last loss that was by finish was way back in 2013 against Gabriel Gonzaga. It was a guillotine choke. And prior to that, it was Cain Velasquez in 2009. It was second round, and it was the punches. And before that, it was Andre Alvarez in 2008. So he's a really hard guy to put out because even in recent time when he has lost, it's been decision losses. And it's gonna be hard for Chris Barnett for a guy who's so compact and small and carries a fair bit of power, but can do the kind of athletic things he does. I think it's a very interesting matchup. He's gonna be a fun guy to watch. I think hopefully the UFC keeps him around for a couple of fights and for quite a while. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for that. I mean, a lot of people thought he should have been in the UFC probably a little while ago, just for entertainment value. But we have him now. I think he's the main guy that I want to highlight from the undercard. I mean, there's some other guys there: Bruno Silva, Victor Rodriguez, Yancy Medeiros, and then the main fight that I think everybody should be keeping an eye on at lightweight is Rafael Alves Demir Azamulov, lightweight. He's 22-1. He comes from the country Kazakhstan. He is not ranked yet in lightweight. I think he's trying to get there real soon. I think he won't be far off from it soon. He's a very interesting dude. I think he has very good striking, is what I've heard. And he's going to be opening up the UFC prelims, and I think that's a guy we also want to keep an eye out for. So there's some stuff to look forward to in this card. It's lit around. It's maybe not the biggest names, but looking forward, it's real fun. Let me see here, and I guess we'll be moving on to our next sponsor, Nate, which is Monkey Knife Fight.
Knife Fight.
Here we go. Monkey Knife Fight is a daily fantasy sports game website for casual sports fans that is simple, fun, and easy to play. Users determine which superstars competing in the day's professional sporting events will record more or less than the contest line provided. Monkey Knife Fight's daily fantasy prop games plays similar to salary cap-based DFS games, but without the algorithms, lineups, and most importantly, sharks. There are several contests to choose from. none of which require hours of research on the competing sites that start as simple as 2 for 2 or go up to highest payouts of 100 times and higher. By selecting an 8-8 more or less contest, get started now with 100% instant match bonus up to 100% up to $50 with promo code Courtside. That is code Courtside when you do your deposit. Now, Nate, I guess we're going to get into a little bit more here. I wanted to talk about some big news that came out this week about boxing. So, over the last week, we had heard that Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury was pretty much finalized. It was going to happen in Saudi Arabia. It was all set, and they're going to make all this money. They're going to go out there, put on a show. You know, the title's going to be unified. All this amazing stuff's going to happen. But lo and behold, I believe Monday morning, I can't remember, Deontay Wilder's legal team comes out, and I guess they go to court, and they had been going to court because originally, after that Deontay Wilder loss against Tyson Fury, there was a rematch clause that was going to guarantee a second fight, and they were going to fight. They were going to have a really quick turnaround too. It wasn't going to be very long, which at the time everybody was like, well, that's a quick turnaround. Obviously, that's going to be hard with when he lost his equilibrium, and obviously he's going to have to make that quick, turnaround. And then COVID struck, and the rematch doesn't end up happening. And they're talking about, potentially making the rematch, and obviously they wanted fans, I think, and all this other stuff. And it didn't seem like it was going to happen. It took it to court, and it was settled now that, well, by September, I believe 15th, Tyson Fury must fight Deontay Wilder. And, well, that kind of came as a shock to the world because Tyson Fury, I guess, was scheduled to fight, and we all thought it was going to happen. It was scheduled to fight Anthony Joshua now. So that's kind of thrown all of that out the window, and they're kind of trying to figure out, they're trying to see if they want step aside money, if they can see if they can figure out a way to extend it. But right now it seems like what'd you say?
Crazy fact. They could still do it. Tyson just has to knock him out round 1 and take him like the first week of September. It's possible.
I mean, theoretically, but it doesn't work like that. Theoretically, it could happen like that, but it's not going to happen, right? Because of just, sanctioning bodies and all that. They wouldn't allow it to happen. But, yeah, Nate, that's kind of been the saga right now. I mean, it seems like Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury will not be fighting this year. This year, it will be Deontay Wilder, Bomb Squad versus Tyson Fury for the trilogy rematch. And, I mean, it's been told that there's been rumors that they did offer Tyson, they offered Deontay step aside money and then guarantee him the fight, and that he said no. But there's also rumors that that Deontay is like, okay, I'll do it, but only if you give me this much. But realistically, obviously Deontay's going to make more money from actually doing the fight rather than getting step aside money and maybe being guaranteed the fight afterwards, because it's word, it's a word of thing, it's mouth to mouth, nothing's guaranteed, right? Obviously the contracts would be the most important thing if they did that. And I just want to get your thoughts on it, Nate. You're a little disappointed we didn't get Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. It's obviously a little disappointing, but at the same time, I was very up on like, hey man, it's a contract. He needs to give him that second fight. It was promised to him. Obviously, COVID fucked that up, but hey man, COVID fucked up a lot of our lives as well. So he needs to be given this chance at this fight again. Obviously, see if he can come back and get that victory. I mean, right? It's just what's fair. Obviously, the contracts are a big thing. Let's see, man. I just think it's the fair thing to do, Nate. I just want to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, hurts my soul a little bit, just a little bit. I don't honestly care if they get unified because I still think Tyson's the better boxer. But the way I think about it now it's like it really gets stuck up there too. That's another now the heavyweight. It's always kind of a little slow, but it's gonna be really slow. Like if Deontay wins, are they gonna push Deontay, Anthony? Or like,
I mean, I feel like you have to.
It's gonna get really slow. And this is just my own personal question. So if Anthony, if Tyson beats Anthony Anthony beats Tyson and they all get unified, do they have to fight because they have to fight, Will they have 3 different opponents they'd have to fight, between different organizations to keep the belt?
I mean, there's always
WBO is like, you have to fight this guy, IBF, you gotta fight this guy.
I mean, there's obviously always your mandatories, which you have to do. It would just depend on how things work out at that time. I don't know if there's any mandatories now that any belt needs them to do. I think Uzyk's a mandatory right now for someone. I think he's mandatory for Joshua. That needs to happen at some point. So I guess
Yeah.
in the meantime, they could do Usyk, Joshua, and then Wilder, Tyson happens. And then I think the winner of that obviously would fight. I think, in my opinion, the best outcome for that to be is for them to fight that. So I think, in my opinion, what should happen is they should try to make Usyk versus Joshua now and get that done, and then fight. And then obviously once Deontay Tyson happens, the winner of that gets Joshua afterwards. And I think you still get a massive fight because I think Deontay versus Joshua is still a massive fight. I mean, it's still UK versus USA. I mean, what's bigger than that? Obviously, UK versus UK because obviously those guys, they have such massive fan bases out there, would have been huge too. But obviously, there's a lot of legality. There's a lot of technical stuff with titles and like, oh, he could vacate and not have to work, or he could, make the fight not a title fight by doing this, or the only way he could avoid it, I think, would be retiring. And obviously, Tyson's not going to retire now to avoid Deontay. And I mean, it's a scary thing, man, because obviously, these guys take a lot of damage at heavyweight. You leave part of yourself in there. And I mean, in that first Deontay fight, I mean, you saw Tyson go down twice, man. He came back from the 12th round knockdown, stood back up like the Undertaker, and came back to outbox him in that round, I believe, and take the round if I remember right. But it's still crazy, dude. I mean, there's a lot going on there. I don't know what they're going to end up doing. I think at the end of the day, what's going to happen is kind of what I said. Hopefully, I think that's the best possible outcome. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Boxing's always been kind of complicated like this when it comes to matchmaking and stuff. Like I said, I think the fair thing was to give the guy the fight. You promised it to him in the contract. They signed a contract for a reason. COVID happened. It fucked up people's lives, like I said, and that's just how it is. And we got to move on and make it work. I mean, and as far as this week, if there's anything else in boxing, I mean, there's nothing really going on right now. There's a couple. There's some big fights coming up. Nothing I want to get into too much, obviously. Josh Taylor, Jose Carlos Ramirez are fighting this week. Next week is going to be Devin Haney, Jorge Linares. I'm sure me and Josh will get into that if Josh is back next week. I don't know if that's guaranteed yet. But yeah, Nate, I think that was a good one, dude. I'm happy to have you on. Obviously, socials at Courtside Soundoff 1, I believe. Obviously, hey, I mean, let's be honest. If you go on Twitter, you put in Courtside Soundoff, you'll find us. Obviously, Angel Ortega _01.
Verified.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously, I want to thank Nate for coming on relatively short notice, but I was already kind of thinking about bringing Nate on regardless for this week. I just had to guarantee his time because of some stuff that came up. Is there anything else you want to say, Nate? Any quick thoughts out there for the public?
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty, Nate. I appreciate.
Yep.
I appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you next time.
Yep.